Use a 19mm socket, remove the wheel, take the lug nuts off. Take the wheel off. Just want to spray a little rust penetrant on this nut. Let it soak for a little bit. All right, I'm going to use a 15mm wrench. And then I need to use a 5mm hex socket. And that's going to hold the stud from spinning. Just use a hammer and hammer that on. I'm just going to hold the hex socket while I loosen up with the wrench. Take this nut off, take that part of the link out. Now on the other side, you're going to have to do the same thing. Take the tire off and take the link off because we're going to need clearance for the lower control arm. Now I'm going to remove this nut. I'm going to use an 18mm socket. So there's different types of front end tools you can use to remove the ball joint from the lower control arm. I'm going to use a pickle fork. You just need to be careful. If you use a pickle fork, it tends to rip the boot and you have to replace the ball joint. But we're going to replace the ball joint anyway. And just hit it with a hammer. There we go. We can pull this out. Slide that to the side. I want to take this bolt out. I'm going to have to use a 15/16 wrench or a 24mm wrench to hold the nut on the top. And then underneath I'm going to use a 21mm socket. Remove that bolt. Remove the nut. You may have an underbody shield here or a cover that you need to remove. There may be some push pins here and here. This vehicle does not have that. I need to remove this bolt next. I'm going to use a 21mm socket. Take that bolt out. Slide that out. If you're doing this on the driver's side, the transmission is going to be in your way. So you're going to need to lift up the transmission just slightly. Put a jack stand underneath here or a jack with a piece of wood. Just raise it up just slightly so you can remove that bolt. And push up on that sway bar just to get it out of the way. And I'm just going to take a pry bar and just pry this out. Get in behind here. And pry it out. And take the new control arm, just slide it in position. And you can take a dead blow hammer, just give it a tap. To get this hole to line up, just take a long screwdriver, just pry this in position. Then I'm going to take the bolt. I'm going to put a little anti-seize on the bolt. A lot of times these rust and get stuck in the bushing, so to prevent that, little anti-seize, slide the bolt up. Install the nut on top. Now I'm going to take this front bolt. I'll do the same, just put a little anti-seize on that. And slide this in position. Get that started. I'm using a torque wrench. I'm going to torque this bolt to 129 foot-pounds. And then we're going to tighten this bolt. Use the wrench on top. Just snug it up first. And then torque this bolt to 107 foot-pounds. There we go. And just take the link. Slide that back in position. And pull down on the control arm. You might need to use a pry bar to do this. And get the ball joint lined up. Watch your fingers. Now take the castle nut. Take a 18mm socket. Tighten this up. I'm going to torque this nut to 70 foot-pounds. Good. Now I take the cotter pin, slide that through there, And I'll take some side cutters and just bend this, cut the excess off. There. Take the nut, put the nut back on. And I'll tighten this down with a wrench, and I can use a hex head socket to hold the stud from spinning. Then I'm going to torque that nut to 35 foot-pounds and install the wheel. I'm going to torque these lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds, and I'm going to do it in a star pattern so that it tightens the wheel down evenly. And I'll just go around again and just double check.